All right, today we're going to be looking at something I've been wanting to make a video about for quite some time. It is a pretty interesting product, I think. They call it the Jabba's Palace with Han Solo in Carbonite 3D Display Diorama, or Display 3D Diorama. I don't know how you're supposed to read that. But what it is a cardboard diorama or display, base. I'm hesitant to call it a playset, but that's sort of what it is. That you can put all your figures in and just sort of make your own Jabba's Palace display, which it's a cool idea. Relatively inexpensive way to get a large Jabba's Palace display. So back in the day, this would have been probably your only real chance to get a lot of this kind of thing, this kind of a sprawling display, especially because they didn't actually even have a throne for sale at that point, much less any of this other stuff. So in some ways this reminds me of the vintage Kenner playsets that they had that were basically just a piece of cardboard that would slot into a plastic base. And on the one hand, those were really bad if you really want to think about it, but they also are kind of charming, aren't they? And I think, I'm trying to decide whether or not I feel the same way about this. Is it a cool idea? Is it a charming playset, like a throwback? Or is it just kind of a, flimsy piece of crap? I'm not entirely decided yet, but hopefully in the course of this video we will be able to figure that out. I actually bought a new one of these, this one here, for the purpose of opening in this video. I had one that was mint in the box up in my collection. I have one that I've already opened that I have on display, but I kind of wanted to show what it looked like when you opened it up and put it together. So we'll go ahead and do that now. You can see this one here was originally $18.99, I think, but was on clearance at KB Toys for $4.99. I paid a little bit more than that, but these are not super expensive things to buy even today. So before we open it up, though, let's go ahead and take a look at the box in a little bit more detail. We have a nice picture of their version of what it might look like to use this with all your figures. We have the exclusive Han Solo in Carbonite figure that it comes with. It says it's a 25-inch wide display diorama, which is a fairly wide kind of thing. It looks like it's a quite large one if you compare it to the figures in the photo. On the back, we have a lot of the same kind of stuff that we had in other products of this era. We had this cutout card that gave you kind of, facts about the character or whatever it was. We have a nicer, full shot of that same photo from the front. So you can see all of them there. It says a cardstock Jabba's Palace display for your Star Wars figures contains figure as noted, others sold separately. Yeah. And then, of course, we have the big ad here for Star Wars Episode 1 coming summer 1999. New characters, vehicles, and worlds. Wow. That's going to be pretty cool, huh? So yeah, this is 1998 and was just sort of on the cusp of the return of Star Wars to stores everywhere when they had that giant marketing push for The Phantom Menace. All right, so let's go ahead and open this guy up, and we'll try and put it together, and I'm going to bring out all of my figures of this same era and see what they'll look like all displayed together. So here we have Han Solo with his binders that have fallen off. And that's it. There's looks to be a lot of empty space in this packaging because the actual cardboard parts were kind of nestled behind here. So if we take those out, you can see that actually that is the entire product right there. Not quite as impressive as this already small box would indicate. But let's give it the benefit of the doubt and see what we have here. So we've got some assembly instructions and a bunch of folded cardboard. which I guess is to be expected. Now, I don't remember. I put this together myself for my own display a number of years ago, but I don't have a clear memory of what it was like to do that, so we're going to find out together right now. The assembly instructions, there's just one sheet here, so it doesn't seem super complicated, although I have a feeling I'm starting to get some flashbacks of maybe having some trouble, you know, getting the tabs to fit in certain places or something like that, or maybe some warped cardboard. We'll find out. Alright, so let's see here. We've got a couple of different essentially flattened cardboard boxes. We've got a background that kind of, you know, is like a pop-up book. This looks to be the back of it, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it. They actually managed to fit some artwork of the palace there on the back, which I like quite a bit. And then if we turn it around to the front, we can see that it basically just all unfolds here. So I'm going to have to try and see if I can fit all of this on camera, and then we'll put it together. So here we have the assembled set, and as you could probably tell when I was assembling it earlier, I had some trouble. Getting all of the tabs to fit into the proper places can be frustrating, and because, you know, you get one in place and then you try to do the next one and the first one falls out. So I ended up taping all of these seams here, which I honestly would really recommend if you actually want to assemble this. You can tape the back and so forth. Even with the tape, I wasn't able to get this corner here to fit properly, and there are, you know, it's definitely still dangerously sort of flimsy in a lot of ways. But I think if you do tape it in particular, it will barely be able to function as what it's intended to be, which is a display for your figures. It's definitely not any kind of a play set. This would not last for more than 5 or 10 minutes with kids trying to play on it, I'm afraid. But, you know, to their credit, they did not call it a play set. They call it a display set. So in the sense, you know, that they could have made it a lot better, I think, with just using thicker cardboard, keep everything exactly the same, just maybe use cardboard that's maybe 2 or 3 times as thick. It could have been really nice. So in that sense, it's a disappointment, but it does have a lot of cool things about it, in particular the artwork and all the details that went into it. There's a lot of thought, I think, you know, just how they've laid things out and how you might use it to display your figures. So it's not a total disappointment by any stretch of the imagination. Let's take a look at some of the details here, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about. So on the far end, we have the place where you'd be displaying Han and Carbonite, and you've got the Tauntaun. Well, actually, they have 2 Tauntauns displayed here, but of course one should be a Jabba head. This really reminds me of the recent palace environment that they released, which I made a video about, which you can see here. This is, of course, kind of a bargain basement version of it, but still, it's cool that they did this maybe 20 years earlier. And here we have a nice archway with stairs, and if you look, you can barely see them, but see there's the wind chimes there that are hanging in the archway in the film. That's a nice attention to detail. If we look over at the throne area, we can see that we have the classic archway, and in back we have the meat rotisserie barbecue, and the throne itself, while it's just literally a cardboard box, it does have some nice detail there. Unfortunately, there is no hookah or railing there, and given the figures that were available at the time, there would have been no way to get one either. You could later on, with one of the later released Jabbas that came with a throne, maybe put that on there, but yeah. And of course also we have the Rancor there staring up from the pit, which I think is a nice touch as well. So why don't we go ahead and put some figures on this display and see if it lives up to its promise. So that was my attempt at recreating what you see on the front of the box, just using those same characters, although I couldn't find my Power of the Force 2 Boba Fett for some reason. But now I'd like to show you how I have it displayed in my display case, more or less. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at my sort of sample display here. But before we do that, I wanted to point out just how flimsy this really is. This cardboard is super thin, and if I wasn't using these clear stands on a lot of my figures, it would just be almost impossible. It would be extremely frustrating to try and display figures on this, because they just, you know, you get one posed perfectly and then the other ones would all fall down. And, you know, even with the stands, it's a little tricky, to be honest with you. So you may have noticed this guy right here. This is Jabba the Hutt. And I'm not not kidding there. This is actually a custom version of the Mos Benid figure that has been repainted to look like the Marvel Comics Jabba the Hutt, the one that they said was Jabba the Hutt in the Marvel Comics version of Star Wars. I made a whole video about that and about the Mos Benid character up there. But this was actually sent to me by a fan, which I thought was really cool. He did a really great job. I especially like the glossy look that he got with this color on the clothing. It looks pretty legit. I also replaced the Han and Carbonite that comes with this set, which we can take a closer look at here real quick. It's obviously Han about to be thawed out of the Carbonite block, and that's fine if that's the scene you want to recreate, but just as a general Jabba's Palace display, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have him just sort of standing there inside the Carbonite block, so I used a different one there. I've also included some of the new Rebo Band, Palace Band characters, such as the drummers there. There's barely enough room to fit them, but I sort of got them in there somehow. And of course we've got the new band members there, and the new dancers in the background. There's barely enough room to fit them, but you can, more or less. We've got C-3PO and a couple other customs here on this side. You may have noticed that my Jabba is no longer the Power of the Force 2 Jabba that I showed earlier, which is this one here. It is a custom that I made a number of years ago, trying to make it look a little bit better. And to do that, I obviously repainted it. And, you know, there's only so much you can do with this sculpt, I think, to make it look better. This is about as good as I could do, but I did manage to, you know, I got the eyes looking a bit better, I think, but by repainting them. And the most important change I made was to take the inside and just Dremel out everything, and that allowed me to turn the head around, so instead of having him face forward like this and not being able to change it, you can now have him face to the side, which is what we normally associate with Jabba on his throne. The other item I have here is this one right here. It is a custom version of Effant Mon that I got with a lot of figures from eBay many years ago. I think this was probably a custom from around the time that these figures were new, so around the late 90s, early 2000s. And it's just made of resin and then painted. And I think it's pretty cool, especially back when there was no official figure from Hasbro. This would have been a nice addition to people's collections, so I have it in my Power of the Force 2 display. Of course, there are a lot more figures you could put in a display like this if you wanted to, even ones that are appropriate for this era. So you might have other aliens like these guys. You might have droids like these guys. You might have, or a Gonk droid. You might have bounty hunters, for example. There are a lot of things that you could certainly add to this display, but for my purposes, I generally have it displayed more or less like this, partially because, well, I kind of use this as a place to put all of my special edition versions of the figures. So we've got, you know, the new band, the new dancers, the drummer and whatnot. And, you know, I suppose you could say I'm quarantining all of my special edition figures in this one display here. That's about it for now. What do you think about this display? Did you have it when it originally came out, or have you gotten one since? Would you like to see something more modern like this? I know Hasbro has put out some sort of environmental pieces recently that are done in plastic, which is cool, but would you be interested in seeing modern versions with some cardboard backgrounds on them, for example? I don't know if I would or not. If they were cheap enough and well done enough, a little more sturdy than this one, I might actually consider it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.